All right, welcome once again, HeroQuest fans. This is Kurgan. Just on my way back home from Gen Con. I took an extra day to recover before I have to go back to work. And I see lots of videos. People, Amalgamash has got something up. Always bored, never boring. I'm kind of watching them now, and I'm kind of sifting through. I'm seeing more pictures, clearer pictures now in Hasbro Pulse of the Path of the Wandering Monk. I'm seeing them on Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, Amazon. So, yeah, as Amalgamash points out, there's a lot of details on the figures. They're showing the 3D models of the Path of the Wandering Monk heroes. So, yeah, you've got the eye patch. One thing I'm a little confused about, and maybe this will be clear after I kind of dig through those other sources, the female monk has a staff in hand. And she, like the male monk, who just shows bare hands, but he has a dagger, or maybe it's a short sword, but some type of blade strapped to his thigh. They both have one attack die, but only one of the characters has an asterisk by the number 1. That's the male monk. And it says the unarmed attack has an extra attack die. So why doesn't it just say 2 for attack? Why does it say 1? So this might be a typo on Avalon Hill's part, or maybe it's something they did intentionally, but we're just supposed to figure it out. But I was thinking maybe this is the first time we actually have a difference between the male and female versions of the hero, instead of just being a stylistic aesthetic choice, because you're only supposed to have one per party, one of that type of hero. Maybe the female monk has a staff as a weapon, meaning she can attack with 1 and attack diagonally. But then if she wants to get the bonus of the unarmed attack, she has to put the staff away. Now she can attack with 2 dice, but only adjacently, because when you're fighting unarmed, you can only strike adjacently. And then if the male monk has a dagger instead, then he's going to attack with 1. And a dagger can be thrown. Of course, once you throw it, you lose it. But you can throw it at close range, which would be pointless. You can also throw it diagonally, which does mean you can attack diagonally with a dagger once, and then it's gone. You've lost it. And then after that, he would be attacking with 2 dice adjacently. That's just a guess. Or maybe they didn't intend that at all. They just meant to say they both have 1 die. They don't start with any weapon at all. They're just barehanded. And the model is just a suggestion, just like how the wizard starts with a staff in his model, but he doesn't actually have a staff. He has a dagger. And the dwarf has an axe in his hand, but he doesn't really have an axe. He has a short sword, that sort of thing. Because it's not like Warhammer, where every figure has to have the exact armaments that the character has. So it may be that they just intended that they're both supposed to be barehanded, so really they have a base attack of 2 always. But then if you give them a short sword, there's going to be no change, except they're not going to get the bonus, because certain elemental styles, which is what they call their spells or skills now, they call them styles, those get a bonus. So Strength of the Mountain would give you 2 extra if you're fighting unarmed. So if you're using your staff or your dagger, it would still just be 1. But if you put that weapon away, now you have 2 plus 2, so 4 for 1 attack, and then after that it'd be 2. So I think I'm starting to understand what they're saying, but there's a little bit of ambiguity there of, is there really a difference, or is it just coincidence? They just decided to do that, and maybe the asterisk was put on one card to clarify, but they didn't do it on the other one. Also, we finally figured out what the water style card Twisting Torrent does. It just lets you avoid damage. So I guess it's very similar to the shield block that the knight has, except it works for you as opposed to, I don't think you can use it to absorb the damage from someone else. It's just against you. So the monk doesn't have any healing, but he takes damage and he just shrugs it off with that ability. And then he would lose his water ability. And they also did clarify that well, on the card, which you heard Inspector Retro reading off on the previous recording, is that there's monsters on the board, but we're only talking about monsters the monk can see, line of sight. So if he wants to recharge his styles, all he has to do is run away from the monsters. So we can't see monsters anymore, and he gets all of his styles back. He can just recharge them like that. But if he's engaged in combat, or he can see a monster, so it could be on the very other end of the corridor, could be anywhere in the room with him, as long as he can see them, doesn't say clear line of sight, just line of sight to monsters, then he can use up his air, water, earth. So he'd have to use like 3 of those styles. Then he gets fire, and he can use 1 of them. Because again, there's 2 cards each time for each element. But if he uses 1, then he has the other one left. So it would be interesting to play this character, interesting to see how it, strategically people would use him. And we know he's limited to certain weapons, so he can use the short sword. No change there from unarmed, except he lacks the bonus. He can use a crossbow, and if you play it the official way, that means he can hit the 4 close diagonals with 3 dice, and 3 at range, just not the 4 adjacent squares. And he can use a staff, which would just mean diagonal strike with 1, or adjacent strike with 1. Dagger, again, at range. Can't wear shields, can't wear armor. One of these pages actually said metal armor. I'm going to have to look at the card again to see if the card actually says metal armor. But the pages that are selling the Wandering Monk say metal armor, metal specifically. And we've seen that they have corrected and updated the hand axe and the helmet cards in the 2022 game system. I'm not sure if they've gone back and corrected the first edition cards as well, the equipment cards for helmet and hand axe, but presumably their intention throughout this is the helmet is metal, so that means the Wandering Monk can't wear the helmet. Just like they're saying the Bard, the Orc Bard from the Mythic, which we'll be getting in Spirit Queen's Torment at some point. They haven't confirmed when, but our sources are pretty reliable on that. That the Orc Bard wouldn't get the bonus if he wears the metal helmet. The Druid would not be able to wear the metal helmet. And the Warlock has the same limitations as the Wizard, so no helmet, metal, or otherwise. And the Wizard, of course, can't wear it. So there's some clarifications there. So I think that'll help a little bit, just kind of understanding where this hero goes. And just looking at his stats, I mean, he has the same stats as an elf. As far as his body points 6, his mind points 4. He has the 4 elements, but really when you think about it, he only has 4. It's like he's having 4 spells instead of 3, like the elf, or 9 like the wizard. But he also has more options. And so I think that's kind of cool. It's like having 8 spells to choose from, but you can only use 4. But you get them back every battle. So in a quest, you would end up using maybe many spells, styles as they call them, and you can choose the one for the job. So we now know all the abilities. We pieced them together. So you can, when you're not in combat, you've got some options. You can jump over 1 trap. You can search for traps and secret doors at the same time 1 time. You can attack 1 monster with 4 dice adjacent. You can hit 1 monster adjacent with 1 instant body point of damage, unblockable. And then at the end of that monster's turn, so Zargon's turn, that monster is going to lose 2 more, which would finish off a lot of the basic level monsters, because you think Chaos Warrior, he's going to lose 1 and then he's going to lose the other 2. Famir, or Abomination in this case, Mummy, Gargoyle. Now your stronger monsters are still going to be alive, so like Yetis, Polar War Bears, Giant Wolves, they have more than 3 body points. But Zargon's going to try to figure out how to like heal those monsters so that they don't just get finished off, necessarily. But yeah, it'd be strong against those Chaos Warriors and Gargoyles, or Dread Warriors in this one. See, I freely mix the terminology together. But let's see what else. Anything else? I'm sure I'll think of some other things. But the Wandering Monk, I mean, he can recharge his powers over and over again. They're not that strong, but the fact that he can just keep getting them back. He can't heal himself, but he keeps shrugging off damage from an attack. And I'll have to look closer at, once we figure out the details. Does that mean any type of attack? Any type of damage? Or just like an attack? So would it work like from a damage from a magic spell, damage from a trap, damage from a hazard? Could he just every turn that he doesn't see monsters just do that? Because he has to expend all of his powers in order to get them back. So in theory he could, let's say it does apply to everything. So he takes damage from a trap, he uses it, so he doesn't take the damage. There's no monsters, so it doesn't reset until monsters show up and get killed. Or, yeah, he runs out of the room, doesn't see monsters anymore, it resets. I don't know, I think Zargon's going to have to keep an eye on this, keep track of it, to make sure that he's not cheating. But anyway, those are some insights. I have much more to add, but it'll be interesting to kind of play test this character and then see him in the companion app, see how that's all fitting together. But I think as before, I mean, we've seen everything. We've seen the lore card, we've seen the back of the hero card, we've seen the back of the box. There doesn't seem anything more to it. So just like the Guardian Knight and the Rogue, you could just drop him into the adventure however you want to use him, or don't use him at all. So it could be an interesting option. And I was thinking, if you combine the heroes that we know are coming to retail, so you have the Guardian Knight from Rise of the Dread Moon, you have the Rogue, Heir of Elethorn, you have soon the Guardian Knight, so January 15th. So 15th? Yeah, January 15th, 2024 is the official pre-order release date. Subject to change, but that's from Hasbro Pulse, so that's legit. So it's pretty close. I mean, those stores were saying January 1st, pretty close to what we thought. And then for the fourth hero in that group, you're going to have the Bard, because we have pretty much guaranteed, even though the Avalon Hill guys wouldn't say definitively officially, I mean, it didn't ask them point blank, but they kind of acknowledge, yeah, some of that information about our timeline has been leaked out there. They didn't, say for sure, but we pretty much know it's Spirit Queen's Torment is coming out. And that means, since the rules are baked into the quest book, that some form of the Orc Bard miniature will be included. And so that character could be in a party of 4 totally new heroes, potentially. And when you add up all the body points, it comes to 24, which is pretty close to the original 4 classics, which add up to 25. So think about that. But it would be an interesting combination because, I mean, the Bard, yeah, he gets a bonus if he doesn't wear armor, but he can wear armor. The Rogue can't wear armor. The Monk can't wear armor. The Knight definitely wears armor, and he's pretty powerful. So I'm not sure if it would be the best party for a lot of quests, but people could experiment. Could be interesting to see. So I think for now that is... Oh, and in several of the videos, I didn't get the name of the dice correct. The fancy purple dice. I mean, they're clear dice. And there's like a little bit of blue and a little bit of purple, like cloudiness inside it, and some sparklies, some little silver sparkles. And then the very deeply cut symbols have like purple paint inside them. So they're actually called Dread Veil dice. And the little tin that they come in has the same artwork as Rise of the Dread Moon. So it's associated with Rise of the Dread Moon. I guess you could use them as Zargon dice or whatever you want. But they're a promotional item from Gen Con. And they're basically just telling us flat out, like, if enough people want this, you'll see something like this in the future. So not saying that those exact dice are going to come out necessarily, but that more fancy dice could be coming. And I don't know if that means it would be in a little package like that all by itself, or packed into another expansion. But one way or the other. And then the dice holder and dice rolling scroll play surface thing, the kind of faux leather scroll that has the snaps on it. It's black. It has an embossed HeroQuest logo on the side. That also has a tag that shows the Rise of the Dreadmoon. So these are like gift items that weren't in the box, but were given at Gen Con. So most people who buy Rise of the Dreadmoon won't get access to those. Unfortunately, I fear that those things will be scalped. So hopefully enough people will express desire for those things that they'll release more of that stuff in the future. It'll be easier for regular folks to get it, not just people who get online and just snap stuff up instantly and then try to get other people to pay through the nose using fear of missing out. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and thanks to all the commentators online. Thanks to Amalgamash, always bored, never boring. Sir Death will have something, I'm sure. Several other people have been commenting, bringing other stuff out. These websites are posting stuff. And so I feel like I'm a few hours behind on all this. But, I mean, I was there at the convention, so I saw what I saw, heard what I heard. More new stuff is coming out. Some of the things we guessed about were wrong, or we kind of misunderstood some things, but I think we got a pretty good handle on it, and it's really cool to see it all coming together. And I really appreciate how the community does their detective work to kind of form the bigger picture of the puzzle, so we can all be excited when it actually comes out. So really cool stuff. And there's more questions. If I had another few days, there's more questions I would have asked the people. And one other little tidbit about, well, I can save that for the Rantcast. Well, anyway, we'll be talking about more stuff this Thursday in the Rantcast with Strange Bus, if all goes according to plan, and should be pretty awesome. Thanks.